So let's think about your impact. Describe a recent event where your emotions clouded your judgment. How did it impact you and the people around you? How could you have responded more effectively in this situation? So pause the video and quickly answer these questions and then come back. I hope you took some time there. Now, this is a formula for success that I love to use. It's called awareness plus self responsibility equals powerful performance. The trick, if you want better results, is to take the unconscious, automatic, knee jerk thoughts and reactions to any situation and become conscious of those thoughts and feelings. This gives you real power because you need to break the cycle so that you don't remain a slave to your impulses. For example, one of the traits that has hounded me throughout my life is impatience. I want everyone to do everything at my pace, in my time, in my way, and Lord help you if you get in my way or hinder my progress. Yep, I'm a recovering, self absorbed, impatient control freak. But let me show you how you too can significantly change your life by becoming more aware and taking self responsibility. Some years ago, I raced into the post office to post a large box that needed to go that day. And so I got in the queue, and there were about 10 people in front of me. And my immediate thought was, this bloody post office, it's always so busy. Why couldn't they put more staff on? When are they going to realize how much Mudgeerbar's grown? And then I started looking at what the people in front of me had in their hands, trying to figure out how long each one of them was going to take. And I looked at the three people being served and working out how long they'd be and how long I'd be in the queue. And I'm thinking, oh, Jesus, it's criminal. Haven't any of these flaming people heard of the internet to pay their bills, walking in here with electricity bills and phone bills? And my frustration was mounting as I started to think about how late I was going to be for my next appointment. But I needed to stay here and I needed to get that bloody box to post that bloody box. So, I didn't walk into the post office with the intent of being frustrated. My intent was just to post that box and be done. Now, none of us make the deliberate decision as we go about our daily activities. I'm going to be, in this instance, frustrated and really quite cross. Luckily, though, because of my EQ training, I was able to quickly de escalate myself and I used the moment of choice. So, this technique's about reaching for the best possible thought in the moment. In the moment of choice, you can choose to be a slave to your negative thoughts that will trigger negative emotions and negative behaviors. Or you can make a deliberate choice to reach for those thoughts that improve your reaction. No matter how slight the improvement, at least reach for a thought that improves your thinking. When you do this, you give yourself the chance to respond in a way that is healthy for you and in all likelihood to deliver you better results and the people around you. So catch yourself in the moment and get curious. What was I just thinking? Is that type of thinking going to lead me to the type of results I want here? Well, what do I want? What could be another interpretation of this situation that could lead me to be where I want to be? When you shift into observation, you begin to reveal yourself to yourself, which is self knowledge. And this is the power for self change. So, back to my post office story. Using the moment of choice, I noticed that I was feeling frustrated and annoyed. I then made the decision about what I wanted to do about it. Now, in the past, I would have been huffy with the teller, furious in the car, and driving like a maniac once I left, and generally turning myself into a monster for the next part of the day. And for most people, their lives slip from one moment to the next, passing by in a blur. Their negative feelings from a previous moment get dragged into the next as they live their life on default. So there's a thing called a pre-paving with segment intending, which I learned from Abraham Hicks. Rockstar leaders take a moment to decide what the next segment of their day looks like. You set the intent that the next moment in time will be great, that you choose to show up at your best and expect the best outcomes, that you don't drag any negative thoughts or feelings into the next segment. So, will it work every time? Of course not. But the more you pre-frame and pre-pave, the stronger you'll show up. So I wanted to give you a couple of examples of pre-paving. Say you're going to go into a meeting and you've just come out of a crappy one. Well, you say, my intention for this next segment of my day is that I listen with curiosity to my colleagues' ideas. I work with them towards solutions that we are all comfortable with and that enhance profit and productivity. Well, let's think about arriving home from work. Normally, you go home shirting from the end of the day. Well, my intention for the next segment of my day is that I'm engaged with the stories of the day my family shares with me. I bring peace and happiness as I walk into the room. Well, what about a difficult conversation? Well, my intention for this next segment of my day is that I work in partnership with this person and we both calmly discuss options that will enable us to move forward. So underscore this. Give up trying to control your initial reaction to anything. It's too deeply ingrained. And as we learnt from Dr. Allen, it's going to happen anyway. Your power lies in controlling your second thought. Don't upset yourself because you had a gut reaction that is imbued in your DNA. You're just a human. Taking the effort to make a different choice enables you to stop yourself automatically pulling the pin on the grenade of your emotions and throwing that grenade at whoever happens to be closest. As you know only too well, the results can be devastating. So change your feelings, change your results. So using the moment of choice at the post office, I said to myself, chillax, do some affirmations while you're here. Think about the great things you're going on in your life. You aren't going anywhere right now. You've got to get this box off today, get this parcel off today. So just chillax and enjoy the moment. And here's the kicker to the story. I'd been standing in that queue for about 5 minutes and the little boy in front of me turned almost immediately. I'd had these thoughts once I'd calmed myself down and he said, I love post offices. And he and I then spent the next 10 minutes or so having a grand old chat about what was interesting in the post office. So that's entrainment at work and people picking up on your vibes. So another thing I want to talk about was to manage your experience. Even with things you can't control, you can still manage how you experience them. For example, say you've been planning a family holiday on a tropical island. You can't control the weather, right? But you can still control if you have a good time or not. If you get there and the weather is lousy, you can bemoan the fact or get out the board games and the cards. You can choose to walk in the rain and discover new ways of seeing nature. You can still choose to have a great family time. You can control completely what things mean to you, but you can't necessarily control events. So the ability to choose your focus is the greatest gift you've been given as a human. You can focus on the good or the bad in any situation. So change your focus and you change your life. In his book, Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl wrote about his experiences in concentration camps in World War II. And his conclusion was that no matter where we find ourselves, no matter the circumstances that surround us in our life, the one thing over which we will always have power is the freedom to choose our attitude. And what he said was, in the final analysis, it becomes clear that the sort of person the prisoner became was the result of an inner decision and not the result of camp influences alone. Fundamentally, therefore, any man can, under such circumstances, decide what shall become of him mentally and spiritually. He may retain his human dignity even in a concentration camp. And that was Viktor Frankl. So the choice is yours. In the moment of choice, what choice will you make about your attitude toward any given experience, incident, or event? The difference between people who are successful and those who fail is not in what they do, it's about how they're thinking and feeling about what they're doing. The skill is to put your focus on what you do want, not on what you fear. Focusing on what you want leads you into a place that will not only get you better results, but along the way will give you all that joy and passion and fulfillment that comes from being on the path to getting what you want instead of what you fear. What you focus on, you feel, whether it's true or not. Who hasn't had a time when you've had a whole story going on in your head about someone, what someone has said or done, and you've got yourself so wound up over it, feeling hurt and frustrated and angry. You've had the thoughts going round and round and round in your head, and you've really ripped yourself into a frenzy, only to find out that the other person didn't do whatever it was you'd thought. that you had misinterpreted the whole thing. How did you feel? Maybe a little stupid, embarrassed, possibly relieved. But here's the thing, you may have spent minutes, hours, days, or weeks, or sadly for some people, years, letting those emotions burn you up and steal precious time away from you when you could have been focusing on other better things, things that could be enhancing your life and putting you in a state that enables you to be free flowing, creative, optimistic, powerful, success focused. And this is crucial to your success. Even if you were right and the other person had done something that wasn't in your best interest, they'd betrayed you in some way, wasting your time caught up in negative emotions about it enables the other person to have a true victory. They get to live rent free in your head. All the while they're rent free in your head, they are robbing you of the thoughts and focus you could be giving to being the creative genius you're meant to be. So, what's something you tend to focus on a lot that doesn't serve you? Do you spend your time fuming and fussing focused on the problem? Look, 5% of your time should be spent on the problem, 95% of your time on the solution. Get that balance right, and you'll find you'll have a lot more time up your sleeve. And just one final thing, you are meant to be blissful all the time. Only two types of people don't feel negative emotions like fear or anger or disappointment: psychopaths and people who are dead. And I don't think you're either of those. So give yourself permission to be human, to experience the full gambit of emotions. If you block negative emotions, you're also blocking positive emotions. They run through the same channels in your body. So don't try to suppress negative emotions because they intensify. When we accept them, that's when they weaken. That is the paradox. There's nothing wrong with feeling envy. It's the behavior following on from the feeling of envy. So take full responsibility for your actions, but don't negate your feelings. So let's put it all into action. Here's some useful questions to consider when deciding how to respond to your feelings. First of all, does the intensity of my feelings match the situation? Do I have more than one feeling that I need to pay attention to? What interpretation or judgment am I making about this event? What are my options for expressing my feelings? What are the consequences of each option for me, to the task at hand, to the relationship with this person, and my personal growth? What are the consequences of each option for others in terms of task, relationship, personal growth? Is a direct approach the best way to proceed? What result am I hoping for in terms of task, relationship, personal growth? What do I want to do? What if I do nothing? Another thing you can do is list the situations you are most susceptible to disruptive impulses and why. Review the list of things that trigger, magnify, and or dilute different emotions for you. And identify the things you can do when you're feeling negative. List how you can leverage positive feelings. Think before you act. Exercise regularly. Not only is it good for your health, it helps work on your emotional state. And finally, breathe rhythmically, evenly, and through the heart every day. So it was a big one on self-regulation, but it's one from most of the reports that I've seen where people need most of the effort. So big one now, but next we're going to move on to social awareness. And so I shall see you in the next video. Bye.